What is going on, traders? Welcome back to the Traveling Trader. So while July seemed like a choppy month while we were going through it, it actually was a pretty successful month overall as far as the indices go. The Nasdaq and S&P 500 gained over 2% and the Dow Jones gained about 1.25% overall. However, with mega cap earnings largely behind us, with the fact that the news cycle is heating up regarding the Delta variant as well as some of the changing CDC guidelines, we will likely start to see a slowdown come August and potentially September, which are two of the worst months in the stock market historically anyway. So in this video, we're going to be discussing the best stocks to buy now, the top 7 stocks that we are looking at. Obviously, there are a lot more than 7 stocks. We have just condensed them for the purposes of this video to give you an idea of the kinds of things we're looking at considering the current market landscape. But before I get into the top 7 stocks to buy for August 2020, if you get anything out of this video, leave it a big fat thumbs up just like this. Leave it in the comment section below. Let me know what stocks you are playing, whether you are playing some of the stocks from the list that I'm presenting you, or there are other stocks that you are looking at that I haven't talked about that you think the group would benefit from. I'd love to hear from you guys, so leave it in the comment section below. If you want access to all of our trades, link is in the description below as well. It has been another crazy earnings month. I just posted this on the YouTube page. We had a Tesla calendar spread, a Ford vertical call spread, Apple put butterfly spread, Facebook, Qualcomm, Microsoft, Texas Instruments, BA. We lost out on Nike, lost out on Adobe. It has been a crazy successful month as far as earnings trades go. If you want to learn how to trade options, you've always wanted to learn how to trade options, check out the course. Link is in the description below. However, we are here to talk about the top 7 stocks to buy for August 2020. Let's get right into it. So the first stock to buy for August 2020, this has been on my list for a while, is Intel. Now, Intel is the gold standard as far as American semiconductor companies go. Once the world leader in chip manufacturing, it has lost a ton of ground in computing, mobile, as well as gaming chip manufacturing. However, in February of 2021, it hired a new chief in Pat Gelsinger, who is really determined to take Intel to the next level and compete with the likes of TSMC, otherwise known as Taiwan Semiconductor. Last week, it revealed its plans and intent to take on TSMC and Samsung to produce the world's most advanced semiconductors by 2024. There's actually a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, part of which will be focused on American chip manufacturing. That bill is currently in the works as of Sunday, the time of this recording, and we will likely hear something about it in the news within the next week or so. So not only is Intel poised for long-term growth, it could also experience tailwinds from the infrastructure bill, and from a technical standpoint, it is sitting at a major support level that used to be resistance going all the way back to 2019 around the $54 level. They also recently crushed earnings, and there is almost a 30% upside just to get back to levels that it was a couple of months ago. With the long-term growth story in place, as well as some of the tailwinds that I discussed, I believe that Intel can easily get back to that level and higher in the long term. All right, stock number 2 is an earnings overreaction drop on a profitable company. We will have multiple of these in this video because, again, we are looking for value here, right? The market is toppy in a lot of places. However, we are looking for value, stocks that are currently undervalued for one reason or another and that have long-term potential. So PayPal dropped from a high of around $311. It is currently sitting at around $275. Now, although it beat earnings, the reason that it dropped is because of their Q3 outlook for both revenue and earnings per share. However, if you dig deeper into the story, you could see that this is based on one factor, which is eBay. eBay is changing its managed payment platform. However, without the eBay factor, PayPal's earnings would have grown 37% year over year anyway. It is rated as a strong buy on TipRanks, has an average price target of $332, 25 buy ratings and 3 hold ratings on PayPal. By the way, if you want access to TipRanks, which is an extremely valuable tool, link is in the description below as well. You get some sort of discount if you use that link. Now, one thing you could do on PayPal is afford to wait here. Obviously, you could dollar cost average if you are a true long-term investor, but because it is currently a falling knife, you can wait to see where it finds support. So while I think PayPal is a strong buy, you could afford to wait a few candles here to see where it finds support. Is it going to be the 100-day moving average? Is it going to potentially fall to the 200-day moving average at around 250? All right, stock number 3 is another earnings overreaction. Complete no-brainer here. Amazon dipping almost 12% to the 100-day moving average at around $3,300. This is something that you want to keep dollar cost averaging into for the long term. And for those that think that Amazon is expensive, you can buy fractional shares on a platform like Charles Schwab or Robinhood. I also think that at some point Amazon will be announcing a split within the year, something that a lot of analysts have said that the stock price needs in order to keep moving higher because right now it just looks too expensive. Their Amazon Web Services segment is growing. They posted a third $100 billion quarter in a row, which is absolutely astounding. And the reason for the drop is because they missed on revenue expectations slightly. I mean, they reported $113 billion in revenue versus the expected $115 billion. Amazon stock could also offer a little bit of protection against reopening plays because Amazon did really well during COVID. It is not really seen as a stay-at-home play, but it is seen as benefiting from the stay-at-home trade. So if the US and a bunch of other Western countries are going to see some lockdowns due to COVID, we could see an increase in Amazon stock price in the short term. Now, in the long term, I think we see that increase. Anyway, Amazon does potentially get to the 4K mark. Stock number 4 is another earnings overreaction, a stock that beat out its earnings once again, and that is Pinterest. Pinterest dropped to the support level that it saw in November 2020 when the market, or at least the NASDAQ, saw an official correction. Currently trading at the $58 level. Again, I think you could afford to wait to see if it finds support here. I am going to be playing call options or at least a call spread on Pinterest, sitting at the 300-day moving average, oversold on the RSI for the first time since May 2021. When it had these exact same conditions, it went from about $57 all the way up to $80. This is a 35% discount on a high-profile, profitable internet company. All right, stock number 5, we're delving into a little bit of riskier territory here in exchange for potentially higher growth. We're talking about Chargepoint sitting at the 300-day moving average and also this bottom support trend line that has been established since the beginning of the year. Now, aside from Chargepoint's inherent growth story, it could actually see even more tailwinds boosted by the infrastructure bill. So we don't know exactly what's in the final bill yet, but EV charging and EV charging infrastructure could get a $7.5 billion boost. This article written on InsideEVs.com says more specifically, the $7.5 billion will go toward producing and installing public EV charging stations across the US. This will be the first time the US has ever made a national effort and investment related to infrastructure for electric vehicles. In this case, I would set a stop limit at around the $21 mark on Chargepoint because it could be a little bit riskier, as I said at the outset. Although it has significant growth potential, it is obviously far from being a profitable company as it is in its infancy just yet. This is what makes it a long-term proposition though, instead of a short-term trade, although you could see a little bit of boost in the short term if the bill is actually signed, and we see that EV infrastructure is part of that bill significantly. All right, stock number 6 is GRWG, or Grow Generation Corp. We've swing traded this stock before last year. However, it is currently back near the 200-day moving average, trading at around $40. Now, this is a profitable company, and although it deals mostly in retail hydroponic and organic gardening, it does also benefit from the cannabis legalization discussion. So along with the infrastructure bill, cannabis legalization is also something else that is a catalyst watch for 2021. We're talking about federal legalization here. And a profitable hydroponics company that is seeing significant revenue growth year over year, like GRWG, could benefit greatly from the fact that it has now added an entire industry, which is the cannabis growing industry, to its portfolio. If cannabis is federally legalized and growing operations are expected to boom, imagine the amount of equipment needed to meet that scale. I would put Grow Generation Corp still under slightly risky territory, but I'm willing to hold it above the 300-day moving average, which currently sits at around $31.50. And the last company I'll talk about that has a ton of long-term upside here that recently beat out earnings rather surprisingly is BA, otherwise known as Boeing. Boeing was expected to report a negative 0.83 EPS. Instead, it reported a positive 0.4 earnings per share. It proved once again that it isn't only a retail airline supplier, but it relies heavily on government contracts. Boeing is also competing in NASA's Commercial Crew Program with the likes of SpaceX. It is going to be testing its unmanned Starliner spacecraft on August 3rd. This test flight is directed at reaching the International Space Station, and if it all goes well, then Boeing will soon be launching astronauts using this spacecraft. Just before the pandemic, Boeing was trading at around $350. It currently sits at $226. Again, recently beat earnings unexpectedly. So long term, if we expect Boeing to benefit from the full return to travel, the full reopening of the economy, whether that's 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, who knows? If it continues to be a contender in NASA's commercial space program, as well as one of the most reliable government contractors in history, if we take all of that into account, Boeing could be severely undervalued here in my opinion. Again, we are talking long term. Now that is it for the top 7 stocks, but just as a little bit of extra credit, I'm looking to buy calls on TAL Education Group. Now, we are seeing a lot of volume coming in the last week, but we are seeing large amounts of volume coming in for the $7.50 strike price as well as the $10 strike price expiring August 20, 2021. There's also a high amount of open interest on the $10 strikes, almost 25,000, and the $12.50 strikes, almost 21,000. Even the $15 strikes have an open interest of almost 15,000. So a lot of call options coming in on TAL. TAL obviously suffered a massive blowback due to the Chinese government crackdown on education firms. However, we are seeing some easing tensions based on a discussion last week between China Securities Regulatory Commission Vice Chairman, who held a call with global investment banks that included Goldman Sachs and UBS. Basically, they said that they will continue to allow Chinese companies to go public in the US as long as they meet listing requirements, and that they will consider the impact that they have on world markets before introducing new major policies into the picture. Anyway, traders, that is it for this video. If you got anything out of this video, leave it a big fat thumbs up just like this. Leave it in the comment section below. Let me know which one of these stocks you are trading, or if there are some stocks that I haven't covered in this video. If you want access to all of our trades, link is in the description below. If you want to learn how to trade options, that link is also in the description. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Stay safe out there, traders. Peace.